Welcome to the Artist 2.0 podcast. Artist 2.0 podcast. All right, hello and welcome to another episode of the Artist 2.0 podcast. Today, my guest is Crystal Petit. So me and Crystal met. She was actually the first person I was put in contact to when I first moved here to Paris, and she's been here for a good couple of years. And I randomly met one of her kind of Spelman alumni, which Crystal will tell me a little bit about, and was put in contact with her. So when I first moved to Paris, she really had a lot of great tips and advice for me, and helped me a lot, just with my own career, even though it's far different from what she does. So Crystal is a musician here in Paris, and I really love her story because it is kind of the most unexpected story you'll hear. So Crystal, thanks for coming on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
I want to talk about your kind of background. So you're a singer, vocal coach also here in Paris, but your family kind of had a musical center or influence,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah. I come from a huge family of gospel singers.
Okay.
A couple of them are professional gospel singers now, but yeah, I grew up with gospel music. Grew up in the 80s, was born, during the fabulous, funky 80s period, so I was influenced by that as well. One of my aunts, my baby aunt, she had a career in the pop world, so we had a little bit of insight as to how that worked. I always had a foot in music, but my family kind of didn't really want me to do it professionally, just because they know how hard it is, how hard of a life it can be. Especially my aunt, she knew firsthand. So it was difficult because obviously I loved music and I was surrounded by it, but at the same time, I was told not to go too deep into it.
So then how did you end up going? Because you went to a pretty prestigious school. You went to Spelman. What did you study there?
I studied econ and French at Spelman.
That's a long way from anything
True.
remotely artistic.
True. Well, you know what? I kind of had a deal with my dad, which was go to school, get an education. I was an undeclared major for like the first year. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I was like, well, business, that can help me out down the road. And there was no set business track, so I just went to econ. And little by little, I was kind of exposed to the arts in a professional sense. And when I interned on Wall Street for a couple summers, I would also kind of hit the open mic scene in New York whenever I had like a few hours here and there. So I kind of was exposed to it like that.
So you were kind of performing behind your parents' back?
Completely encouraged by my Spelman girlfriends as well. They would come and cheer me on and buy a couple drinks and stuff. And then, I think it really hit me like, oh, I really want to do this when I was sharing the stage with all of these famous singers, background singers, and these are people that you don't really see as much. Thanks to the movie, I think it's 20 Feet from Stardom. Now we have a better idea of what it's like to be one of those huge singers, right-hand women and men. But I was sharing the stage with Mariah Carey's background singers, the ones that you heard on her first album and second album, that made her really, really who she is known for. Janet Jackson's, Mary J. Blige. And when they turned to me and they said, oh, you can really sing, I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something there. So after I finished Spelman, which, I held up my end of the deal with my dad, my cousin entered me into this contest called Pop Stars.
Oh, no, this is a great story because I remember this reality TV show. I was one of those, teen boppers watching it. I actually bought the album.
Eden's crush,
shows
girl.
You how much I am not into music at all. But when we met, it was so funny that you told me this because, it was such a long time ago. I don't remember it that well anyway. But it's funny to hear that you were on this reality show. So tell us about that.
I was on it. Well, I was supposed to be working. I don't even remember the summer job. It was just like a job to buy me some time or whatever. And my cousin heard about it, and she entered my name, and so they called me and they're like, well, your spot is, tomorrow, come and audition. And I had no clue what was going on. My was like, oh yeah, I put your name down. So I just made up an excuse from work and I went, and I just kind of went in there nonchalantly, didn't expect anything, and I kept making it further and further and further to several different rounds. And then next thing I know, after the 2-week wait period, I got a call saying come to LA, and I was like, oh my god, hell yeah, I'm going to LA. So I was on the plane with a girl named Nicole Scherzinger, who became
Pussycat Girls to fame now, right?
Exactly.
She's doing her own thing now, right?
She's doing her own thing.
Yeah.
She's making it because she has her own clothing line, and I mean, she's more than made it, but she's doing a lot of different things. But it was just, a great experience. And so I made it in the top 10 of those thousands of girls.
Which is amazingly impressive. I mean, if that doesn't give you a push to pursue a career in singing, I don't know what else would.
Exactly. And I don't know. I just felt something that I had never felt. And although I had all these other opportunities waiting for me, I could have gone on to work on Wall Street full time. I had a full ride to Harvard Law. It was just a lot.
How did your parents cope with this? Because they pretty much told you no. And you were already on the path to kind of doing the, office life that, a lot of people do. There's nothing wrong with that. But all of a sudden, you're kind of on this skyrocket thing that you didn't even plan for.
I didn't. But you know what? I kind of sort of made another deal with my parents. I got a Fulbright to go teach English in not in Paris, in this place called Chateauroux, France. But it seemed like an opportunity because I could make music here. I could teach a little bit here and there, even though I was here, for the sole purpose of teaching. And I would only stay for 6 months. I think it was like a 6-month contract. But, and then I would return and I would probably go to Harvard Law, and I just never returned. That's the thing. My 6 months turned into 15 years. So after a while, I guess I was so far removed from that world, Wall Street, econ, and potentially Harvard Law, that I just didn't care anymore. I had been exposed to pop stars. I'd been exposed to what was then like the hottest writers, choreographers, and I had gotten just like, I don't know, it's like tasting a little bitty piece, a little sample of like an amazing meal. You want more. Yeah. So it doesn't matter that, you have stability knocking at your door, via Wall Street or these other things. You just know what you had was good, so you want to get some more. So that's basically what happened.
Well, I think it's interesting because, I think when a lot of artists decide to pursue their art as a career, as a full-time thing, it's all unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the next paycheck. Nothing. It's all kind of a huge leap of faith. But you got a kind of peek into the other side of the curtain, like, well, you know what, it might not be so bad, and you had a lot of people kind of helping you put with the training shoes into the career. So it really is like when you can actually see the future a little bit better, it's easier to kind of make that choice and go towards it. So were you happy with the career that you had chosen previously? Like, were you okay with it, or were you just doing it because you felt that's what you had to, that was like the typical path?
Wall Street?
Yeah.
Oh, I hated it.
See?
Oh, Lord. I would never, you couldn't pay me enough money to get back to that. It was crazy because I was so young and I was making so much money that I never even got a chance to spend. And I will never forget, my first year was amazing because I did it twice. I interned twice, and then I was possibly going to work for JP Morgan. Anyways, the first year I was at Goldman Sachs. I had an amazing boss. He he wasn't your typical boss because he actually gave me a lot of free time, it just doesn't exist in the world of Wall Street. So I was able to do all these open mics and all these amazing things. The next year was pure hell. It was awful. I had a boss that was hardly ever there, and then I had someone right above me, this girl that always thought I was going to take her place, so she was just so mean to me. And these people lived for that company, and if I went out to actually go and eat a sandwich on the street for more than like 15 minutes, you know, I'd get a call. Back then we had pagers. So I would, I was paged 911. It was ridiculous. Like, where are you? I'm like, I'm eating a sandwich at Sbarro's. Whatever. You know, it's crazy. So what the horrible thing for me at the time was I was kind of really close to MTV. So I would use my lunch hour to go and get a slice of pizza, go watch, I think it was, oh, I can't remember the show, but basically it's not Total Request Live. It's something like that, but old school. You could look through the glass and see the artists, you know, being interviewed, and there's just a tiny crowd on the inside, so you could really, really see, you know, who was there. So I saw all these people, Usher. It was just, and it was painful to be that close yet, you know, so close yet so far, and then to be in my really, really overly tight, you know, suit with my hair pulled back, you know, I couldn't breathe, and the driver waiting on me. I don't know, sometimes at midnight to pick me up and take me home and bring me back at like 4 in the morning. It was ridiculous. I hated the job.
Now this is the part of the story where I feel like we were really kindred spirits, because, you know, I also worked in corporate America, and I hated it I couldn't even tell you how much I hated it. I would walk into the door and literally feel physically nauseous.
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
would see all these people just going through these routines every day, and everyone looks so miserable. And I was like, is this going to be my life in 10, 20, 15 years? Like,
right.
It just felt like a prison sentence every single day.
Makes no sense.
But to the outside world, this seems perfect. You have this great on paper career. You know, you're working at a high-powered company in Manhattan. You have drivers waiting for you. You have good money coming in. All this crap, but you're miserable.
Exactly.
You know, and when you go into the artist, believe me, you don't get any of that. You're hitchhiking to get home most of the time. But I've never been happier. And there's just a sense of freedom. And I think it's more mental, spiritual, and creative freedom that you don't get in that job. As good as it sounds, in reality, you know, it wasn't anything, you know. And I got to the point where I wanted a good in real life, not a good on paper life.
Yeah.
You know, I got to the point where I didn't give two shits who was impressed with anything I had to tell them. I just wanted to be happy. And that was, I mean, no amount of money could have made me stay. Just, I mean, now that I know the happiness on the other side, you know.
That's it. And people thought I was crazy, you know, like even some of the people I graduated with who went on to take those types of jobs, they just thought I was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They're like, what is she doing? You know, it's the amount of money that they're offering you, Crystal, or, you know, the opportunities and all this. I was just like, I don't care. You know, by then I was tainted. I had already, you know.
Yeah, you already tasted it. You can't go back.
Exactly. And so it didn't matter. It didn't matter that I was going to live in like a small studio, you know, eating a baguette and drinking €2 wine. Well, actually, that was a lot for back then, you know. But I loved it, you know. I loved it. And I worked my little 12 hours a week. I fulfilled my contract and all that, and then I just went and I would sing my little heart out, and I loved it. I loved that 10 times more than all the perks that Wall Street, you know, came with.
Yeah. So now let's talk about when you moved over to France and you kind of had to start a career here. So I know success doesn't necessarily transfer over when you kind of go to a whole different culture, because they maybe didn't see the reality show here at all. So, you know, did you kind of lose all that advantage you had in the States when you came here, and did you have to start over? And who did you first meet? I'm forgetting my English people.
You've been here too long. Well, who did I first meet when? Well, the thing is, just to go back to what you were saying, it's not like it is now where a show is filmed and you can almost show it like a week later.
Yeah.
And sometimes live, many times live. Back then, in the dinosaur age, you know, we filmed it in like, it must have been from July to, or August to September, October, and they didn't air it until January of that next year, 2001.
Okay.
So by the time I got here, I mean, I knew that I wasn't part of the group. I knew pretty much who had won. But we signed one of those crazy contracts that says if you blab, you got to pay $5 million. You know, and they made us all these scare tactics. Don't do this, don't do that. And I just regret that because I didn't take any pictures. I held that contract up to a T. Like, I can't take any pictures, so now I don't have that much proof. But the girls I remain in contact with, we laugh about that. But so I didn't have any of that coming with me. Nobody knew who I was. Yeah. And I ended up in this small ass. I mean, this town was like population. It was a village. Chateau is a village. It literally means red castle. It's nothing but castles, old people, and the kids I was teaching. And they were like between 12 and 14. Because all the other people, they rolled out. They're like, we're not staying here.
Exactly.
There's nothing here. Right. Like, I was hanging out with grandmas and stuff, which I have no problem with. But I didn't have anybody my age. And my friend, who later on became my husband, a friend that I had met when I'd studied abroad like 2 years prior, he would drive down, make the trek like 3 hours every weekend and come see me. Or sometimes I would come up to Paris. And so we just had the idea to start a group, so he was the first contact, really. He was a guitarist, bassist, and was working on his producing skills. And I was this, fresh off the plane American girl. And so when my contract was up, I moved to Paris. And I only had like a couple $100. It's kind of, it wasn't that sob story that a lot of people give. Like, I had $7 in my pocket, but it wasn't too far. Like, I didn't have much, We even stayed with, well, I'll say this now, but we even stayed with, my now in-laws. We lived with them, for a little while, because it was Paris. Paris, like any huge major city, is expensive, and I didn't have that type of money. And a lot of the Wall Street money that I'd saved up was now just kind of dwindling away because I was,
because you weren't replenishing it with Wall Street money.
Exactly. I was happy, but a little bit broke. So I just little by little, I started going to these. They didn't really have the concept of that, like we did, of open mics. So I would just go to these concerts. A lot of these bars and restaurants had singers that would come and just sing. And so my husband and I, we put together a demo and we just shopped it around. And so we started getting gigs. We put together a band of friends. Most of them, they weren't even professionals, but they just kind of happened to play a little bass, or happened to sing a little bit in their shower. And so we're like, you can hit the note. You're my background singer because I can't pay you right now. I can buy you a baguette. And so that's how it worked out. And we just basically, in a 2-year period, we played all of our new material. We put it together in an album form. We packaged it up really nicely because my husband is so gifted in so many areas that he put together the design. He did the website and did a lot of stuff, so that saved us money. And then little by little, our name got out there, and we found ourselves gigging in Thailand and Estonia, Greece, London, and we did that for a while with that first album. So that put my name out there, that first album. And then I started writing for and with other people here in France.
Because you actually work with some pretty big names now. I'm sure a lot of U.S. people ain't gonna know any of these people, but Europe-wide, maybe even worldwide, I don't know, like M. Pokora.
Yeah.
Who else have you worked with?
I've worked with HKB Finn.
Yes.
And, very, very well known. In Europe. And I've worked with Michel Sardou, who's like one of the last, dinosaurs of French chanson or whatever. I was on tour with him. I've worked with a band that I just find phenomenal called C2C, which is like a group of DJs that put together a phenomenal album. It was their first ever, and it just exploded. They had fans all over from Japan to California. I've worked with Ben Uncle Soul. Oh, and then I've worked with a lot more. I've done a lot of TV and stuff here, a lot of film, a lot of coaching. I did the Caesar Awards, which is, a pretty big event here for film in France. Rosie de Palma, Cécile de France.
I want to go into kind of like the business part of it. So you were starting to get all these gigs and you were getting well-known and stuff like that. When did you kind of, or maybe because you have a business background, you probably came from a different perspective as most artists. I think most artists all of a sudden find themselves with money and they're like, shit, what do I do with this? Because, you go from paycheck to paycheck where you don't really have to think too much about what's happening with your money because it's already gone when it comes
Yeah,
in. All
exactly.
of a
It's not,
sudden you have a little bit extra and you don't know what the hell to do with it. Like, do I invest? Am I a millionaire? Like,
exactly, exactly.
so how did you kind of bridge kind of the, because I think especially today, I mean, you're no longer just an artist, we're entrepreneurs. You have to
Yeah,
have some business sense, and a lot of artists who fail today miss that. If you
yeah,
don't know it, I didn't know it, you got to learn it, you just have to.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when did you become like the business, the brand, um, you know setting contracts and
Mhm.
asking for your rates? How did that come apart about?
Um, well, it came about a couple ways. I noticed that at least when in Paris, people would just offer just ridiculous just ridiculous rates. I was like, is this gonna,
Ridiculous bad,
like, in the bad
okay.
sense? Yeah, I would love for it to have been in the, the other way around. Yet when I
It
went
never is
away,
it?
I know, right? When I went away, I'd be like, really? You were gonna give me this? Me? Okay, cool. And that was in the good sense.
Hmm.
Sounds like I got to find a happy medium here because it's not like I can go away to Vietnam every week or whatever.
Yeah.
So, um, and so there was that. So initially, when I would go away and do these bigger gigs, and get paid pretty good money, I knew that it may be a couple months, or even 6 months before I'd get another huge gig like that. So I'd have to basically save, and I'm a bit of a nerd, so I had my little chart, and we got to save this much, expenses are this much, blah blah blah, and I was like, I've got to work on things back home, and I actually saw a wonderful person who was used to working with artists and trying to get them where they need to be. And she helped me a lot just to even come up with a rate sheet, just to have everything in black and white, detailed. This much, this much. Record labels, they want a session with their artist, or it's this much. If they want a lockout session, it's this much. English, but at that time was becoming popular. Both for songwriting and for artists that wanted to cross over and interview in English. So that was a different realm. So how much do I charge for that? So she kind of helped me out with that as well. And then I just went from there. Literally, I stopped performing in and around Paris unless I hadn't performed in a long time and it was a big event, or I had an album coming out or something. And what I did do in Paris was vocal sessions for artists, singing background or coaching, songwriting, because those are the things that paid. I basically singled out what didn't pay,
Right.
um, and took what did pay. And if I had like a down period, which can happen, you've got
Absolutely.
those times where months can pass, and you're like, oh gosh, I was okay because I had planned for it.
Yeah.
And during those times, those are more of my creative times. So I was like, okay, well, let me just work on some stuff. There'll be some stuff that'll come, but right now, financially, it's a little bit, well, it's not so great. So I just had to really, really manage my time and manage my money, learn to say no.
Yeah.
Um,
That's my favorite word, man. Get it on a
yeah,
T-shirt, get it printed on a hat, get a no
I
ring,
and
whatever you need to do.
I do know that
Say
about you,
no.
and I respect that, and I love that. No, I'm serious, because after a while, I love the French because they have this expression, something along the lines of, you give them this, can you see, and they want this, and
Yeah,
I'm just,
yeah. Give
that
them
is
an inch,
so
they want a
true.
mile. So
Exactly. Well,
true.
there you go. There you go. It's so true. And the thing is, you can get caught up with all of these favors that people want you to perform for them. Friends as well. You have to just pick and choose. Occasionally, if there's something that is, that's dear to my heart, I'll go ahead, and if it doesn't take up, an more enormous amount of time, I'll do it. But usually, I just say no. But sometimes, if I'm not paid, there's something to be gained in another way. Like,
When there's a
um,
project you want to work with, something that interests you or
ex-
passionate about, because personal projects I mean, artists should always have personal projects, and
Right.
you can't
Exactly.
expect to get paid for that. Like, no one's gonna
Exactly.
really pay for you
Exactly.
just to do whatever the hell you want, unless you really
Exactly.
get to another point. But personal
Yeah.
projects are important. Yes, there's one side of the aspect where you have to make money and there's a business and kind of be a little bit more structured, but it
Mhm.
can't be just that. You know, you are an artist and you have something that you want to say and create in your own
Yeah.
vision, and
Yeah.
that's always going to be a side project. You
Hmm.
know, you're not always going to get funding for it. So collaborations and
That's the
things
thing,
like
right?
that. That's
Collaborations
yeah,
and exchanges. Like, oh, this person, is a makeup artist. I don't know how to do my makeup. She needs somebody to come and sing for, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
yeah,
Okay, can you do my makeup for this video shoot? So there's that as well.
yeah. There's a
And
great broader community amongst artists.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And my friends have gotten pretty good now. They know, friends and colleagues. I've kind of earned that reputation. You don't go to Crystal unless you got some numbers written down,
right.
because I really don't have the time now. My time it was already, limited before having kids, and now it's just I really have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
So
Well, that brings us into kind of the next thing I really want to talk about, and that is you becoming a mom. So you have two beautiful boys. They're in their terrible twos right now.
so and they're terrible.
You're married, and you have a family that's not gonna stop. You know, because it's inconvenient for mom.
Exactly.
If anything, it'll get more messy because it's inconvenient for mom.
Already has.
And and I think especially for women who artists, because it's all about artists, this podcast, who go from creating full time, then you want to start a family. There's this kind of weird transition period. A lot of moms, I think, are faced with the choice. It has to be one or the other. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can have this unstability of being an artist and also have a family who needs a stability,
Right.
because there's so much
Right.
that you don't know as an artist at
Right.
every single point. You just
Right.
can't predict what's going to happen.
Right.
So it's kind of like a really hard choice to even make that decision. And I
Yeah.
think once you do, even to kind of go back into your career and manage it and just find some kind of equilibrium and everything, it's a huge task.
Right.
So tell us about kind of one, your fears, about your career when you decided you wanted to be a mom,
Yeah.
and then kind of that journey, when you were pregnant and you had to kind of take the time off, kind of, set the foundation for your kids and everything,
Yeah.
and then going back into kind of your singing career.
Well, the thing is, well, there's a lot to be said about that. It's first and foremost, I wanted kids. I knew I wanted kids. I know I have some girlfriends that are like, oh hell no, and that's just clear. I know I was, but and I understand that, and I get that. But I wanted kids, and I wanted to be an artist. I wanted those two things. I did not want to be a stay-at-home mom. Okay, so I'm like, dang, how can I make this work? The thing is, I had them at 34, and I started professionally at 22.
So you
So
started.
I had a good amount of years where I was gone all the time. If I needed to leave tomorrow, I would just leave. I went on tour with some major artists. I've been through that, and not to say that that's finished. At least right now that's not in the plans in the near future. But what I did have to think about was how was I going to keep those together? Because I do live in a very expensive city. I did make a good amount of money touring, and tours can last, a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years. How can I make it work? So what I had to do was just basically just do away with the idea of touring as I know it. I can go here and there, every now and then,
Well,
once a month.
also touring, I should say, because you're still in Paris.
Right,
Touring internationally is not really the same if you're like in the States. You
right,
know, touring could be a 2 hour train ride to London.
exactly,
An hour ride somewhere. The
exactly,
time and the distance is not as extreme for
exactly,
a lot of people. But continue.
exactly. But the type of tour where you're gone every day,
Hmm.
and it's intense, and even if it only is a couple hours away, you're still gone for a good amount of time. Because
Yeah.
there were times where I wouldn't come home, except like I'd come home once or twice a month, throw my suitcase down, grab another suitcase that was already ready and be like, bye, honey, or
Don't forget to do the wash. Bye.
exactly, those types of tours I couldn't do. But what I could do was, okay, maybe when they're a little bit older, a year or so, I can, go to Switzerland, which is what I do now, maybe a couple times a month. I can work that out. But I still, at that point, when I found out I was pregnant, I had no idea how things would work out. It's unclear, and there's no guideline for this. So I mean, I was freaked out because obviously, it's an unknown journey unless you're pregnant. You don't know what the hell's gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's that. There's, oh my God, wait, oh shoot, I am pregnant. Am I gonna get a job after this? Type
well,
deal.
That's actually interesting because you were on a really high profile job.
I
You
was.
got pregnant, which I think is an interesting story. That
Yes, sneaky. Well, I was in rehearsal, and I just come back from the doctor's office, knew I was pregnant. I was 2 weeks into rehearsals, intense rehearsals, and I was going to sign my contract a week after that, and I was like, well, just wait a little bit before you say something, because you might want to sign on the dotted line, So that's what I did, because no matter how great an artist or a team may seem, when it comes down to it, it comes down to money and liability, and that's it. So,
it's still a business.
it's
You
still a
can have
business.
all the moral qualms about it, but there's some serious things that change. And you
Exactly.
have a pregnant woman touring around all the time.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that's what or fortunately, I mean, that's how I felt I needed to do things. In an ideal world, I could go to them and say, I'm pregnant, and then still sign the contract later on. But we know
With
that's,
no strange looks and no like, oh my god, the budget.
exactly. So I signed the contract, and then a week after that, I went to the artist himself and told him, and he was phenomenal. He was so overprotective. He was so sweet. The entire team, they supported me, and he even told me, he said, "Listen, you stay with us until you can't stay with us anymore." I know probably somewhere behind the scenes there, probably, I don't know, peeing in the pants, like, oh, Lord, please let her quit, let her quit.
Well, I should remind the listeners that you were pregnant with twins, so
I was pregnant with twins.
that's
Yes,
another added
it's a
stress.
risk pregnancy. It's a high risk pregnancy. But you know what? I went to 5 months or 5.5 months on stage with my little stiletto heels.
What?
It just,
I'm like,
yeah.
listen, I got two people in here. There's no way in hell you're gonna put a ladder under me because I'm not wearing heels.
It's crazy. Well, the thing is, the attire was, it was like these really tight bustiers and these Dolce and Gabbana pants that were like sewn on, right?
Oh my god.
So at the second fitting, she's like, I don't know what happened. Let me check my measurements again, and I'm thinking, oh, I know what happened. And she's like, well, you did say you were in Italy last week, so maybe you ate a little too much pasta. I was like, yeah, that's it.
That's
But,
it.
that's it.
Way
So
too much
after
pasta.
about a month, so they lost a little money on that too. But after about a month, they basically had to redesign an entire outfit for me. So they gave me this little cute dolly, with all this fringy stuff dress. And I kept the same heels as the other girls. And I came off the tour, not because I was tired on stage. I was doing all the dance movements and everything, but it was the back and forth. It was the trains, the planes. I would feel nauseous.
Time zones, yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
just traveling in general is very stressful.
Exactly. So, and I felt that for the safety of the babies and my safety that I needed to come off. And so then I came off the tour, and then I was kind of thrown. It was January, so it was January in France, in Paris. January in Paris is not the best month.
No.
Yeah, depressing.
Yeah.
I realized that all my friends, or 99% of them, were artists because none of them were here. They were
Yeah.
all on tour somewhere, and I was, quite depressed. I was like, this is pretty bad. I didn't have my mom. I didn't have the huge celebration that we have in the States, the baby shower, because they don't really do that here.
You
And
didn't have the support team.
I didn't have, exactly. My husband was working hard to make sure that everything was ready for the baby, to make sure we had some extra money, so there was a lot going on. So that was a hard period. Plus, announcing to everybody that you're pregnant, especially to men in this business, this industry, they're like, oh, okay, she's out. Just X her out. We'll never call her again.
That's exactly the stereotype. Like, how do you stop from being erased from the black book of contacts,
Exactly.
and go into like this mother pile? Like, burn that pile. They're all
Exactly.
dead for life.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Well, the thing is, there were a few things. I was fortunate enough to have a pretty good reputation because you can be a great artist or whatever, but be known as an asshole. I didn't have problems with anybody, so when it came time to let them know that I was back in the game, I called them. I sent out emails. They're like, "Oh, really? Okay." A couple of my girlfriends that had replaced me from some of my bigger gigs, they had gone into these gigs knowing that they were going to replace me, and that ultimately I would want my spot back. And so that happened, and it even worked out even better because one in particular, which is in Switzerland, it happens to be with one of my closest friends, and she and I now share those gigs, so it works out perfectly because there are so many that I can't do all of them.
Right.
So she goes. She lives in Berlin. She goes when I can't go. So that worked out perfectly. It was a bit of a struggle to get some of my older things back because by then it had been like a year between the pregnancy, the tour I was on, the pregnancy, the end of the pregnancy, keeping my boys for 4 months. A year and a half had passed, and they had gotten used to these other people. So you win some, you lose some. But I did every now and then when I would talk to somebody and I'd see them at the studio. Oh, I thought you were a mother now. I am,
I
and
love how they say it as if you like had died. Oh,
exactly.
I thought you were a mom. How dare you be back in the studio?
And you're working. I mean, we can call you. Yeah, I mean it's just so you just got to fight against that. And I just
Yeah.
I came back at them with little snappy side remarks, and we just laughed about it and moved on. And now they know that yes, I'm a mom, but I'm an artist as well. And if they want me for particular things, then it's doable. We just may every now and then have to work around it.
Right.
But I have. It was very hard in the beginning, and I cried a lot, and it's difficult as well because I'm dealing, with not only my first pregnancy, but it was a twin pregnancy.
Kids and
Two
trying
kids.
to even
Exactly.
deal with actually be a mom, let alone a career. Yeah.
Exactly. Being away from my family, only having my in-laws here to help me 6 months out the year. My husband being at work a lot, and he helps me when he could, but he's a business owner, so that meant working weekends every now and then. So,
Yeah.
just juggling. And we did get two spots at the daycare, which here it's like the lottery system. It's like, winning the lottery, with two. But even then, they were sick the first year because they caught everything. So that meant that they were at the hospital all the time, or I had to keep them. So I was just like, this is a sign. I'm just looking at being a damn stay-at-home mom. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, we worked through it, and there were a lot of tears.
Yeah.
A lot of sleepless nights because my boys never really slept through the night. So, when I'd go to these gigs, I was like drugged up on coffee and adrenaline. There were a couple.
When you have twins, it's tag team too, right? One will be sleeping, the other one will be like trying to jump off the balcony. It's like, what the hell? They organize against you. It's even worse.
I'm like, you guys get together and plan this out, and you're trying to kill mom. But no, it was hard. A couple breakdowns. My husband had to scoop me up and take me to the south of France a couple times.
Oh, that's all right that you have that support.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was like either that or I put her in the loony bin because my wife, I don't know what happened to her. She's a little crazy, and it was hard. And just fast forward, maybe a few months after that, I kind of got a system going. And between the daycare and my in-laws, when they were here, my mom flew over a few times and helped me out, and babysitters. So I have a couple babysitters that I rely on. And, things are I'm finding that balance. It's not easy every day, and like I said, it's actually there are no guidelines for this, and there are not that many people, not that many mothers around me who are artists. So it's not like I can turn to them and ask them, except one who is a phenomenal artist, Monique Thomas. She is someone I go to a lot for these questions, but other than her, there's no one, and it's just it's an everyday struggle, but it's like when you know what you want, it's worth it, and I'm trying to make it happen. So
That's a good point. I feel as artists we need mentors, and a lot of probably the mentors that we have are external. We're also on YouTube, we follow their career and stuff like that, but it might not always be a mentor in your career. Like you just told me you have this other mother who probably had kids before you and kind of is also a singer. So you go to her and ask her, what the hell do you do? Because I can't figure this out. But,
Exactly.
that's also a mentor kind of relationship, someone you can get some different perspective and advice from someone who's been there. And
Yeah.
you should always have those people in our lives, especially as artists, because we spend so much time in our heads and alone creating.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need someone to talk out loud
Mm-hmm.
to know that you are not crazy.
Yeah.
This is a common experience that we're all going through.
Yes.
But we're just kind of all disconnected and secluded. We don't know this.
Yeah.
So it's always great to kind of have those people.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
so now that you kind of have a routine going and things like that, how do you think your kids cope with you kind of traveling and all the things that a
Yeah.
mommy musician comes with?
Right. Well, they are mama's boys, so they're very attached to mom. So when they see mom's suitcase next to the door, they're like, "Oh
Temper
no,
tantrum.
no choo choo train, no choo choo
Aw,
train."
it must be heartbreaking.
It is, but I need that break
Yeah,
because
of course.
it's just intense. It's always intense in my house. That's why people know that they can't call me from dinner time to bath time to bedtime. I just won't pick up the phone because you'll just hear hollering and screaming and and it's like that all the time. So it's good for me to take a break because when I go away, it's never more than like 2 3 days, and I think it's good for them too because they connect to their dad more. They get to see their grandparents when they're here, and they get to just do other things other than just hang off mom, literally,
Right.
just
Yeah.
literally hang off with me. So but they're getting older, so it's easier for me to leave them. It was very hard. I think the first time I left them, and that was because my husband took me to a spa because I needed it for like 3 days. They were 6 months old.
Mhm.
That was hard for me. But now, we live in 2015, so there's FaceTime, there's Skype. I leave them little videos.
Yeah.
They're occupied,
Yeah.
and mommy comes back a little more refreshed with a little more color to her face.
And can stand them a little bit better.
Exactly, exactly.
Like that saying, what is it? Absence makes
Makes the
the heart
heart
grow
go
fonder. I feel like
back.
that's the name of the drink and not like the actual word I'm looking for. That true though. Alcohol does make the heart grow fonder as well.
I do live in Paris, and the guy at the Nicolas shop knows me very well. Oh, hi, Mrs. Petit. Nicolas, for those who don't know, that's a wine chain, well, an alcohol chain, but I
Yeah.
go for wine. So yeah.
All right. So, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So, with so much going on in your life, and it's just kind of so crazy and so unknown, like, what do you do to stay focused on music? How do you stay motivated and inspired? And
Oh wow. You know what? It's actually easier now that I have the kids
really,
than it was back in the day. Just because I remember going to the studio because I used to work at this studio with this artist named Michael Youn and his partners in crime, and they created this studio, and I would go there. That was kind of my first foot in, when it comes to film and stuff like that, and it was a great learning ground. But at the time, it was intense for me because you go there and you were supposed to, in 2 3 hours time, come up with a song.
hmm
So,
that's not
you know,
easy.
it's not easy. And not only that, you have other boundaries and limitations because the song needed to sound like this or Rihanna this or that. So that meant listening to the song, not copying, but being influenced. It's
Yeah,
just a hard balance. And that,
yeah,
after a while, kind of wears down on you. Versus now, when I only occasionally go into the studio or occasionally write for my own projects, I'm very much inspired a lot more now than I was back in the day, just because my mind is on other things. Like, when I'm with the children, I'm just with them. Or when I'm working on a different project like voiceovers, because I do that as well, that's a different, thing, a different animal. And when it comes to creating, it's like dessert time for me because I have all of, I don't know, this, it's everything is
pent up
refreshed.
creativity.
Exactly, and I don't know. There's an adrenaline rush as well. So just by me breaking up my day into different things and not being focused 100% on this song, oh my God, I have until 3:30 to finish this song, or until Friday for this film.
Right.
I don't have that stress anymore. So it just comes naturally now. But back then I did have to kind of find ways to motivate myself. So I would just have to leave. I would go to the Sacré-Cœur, which was my hideout, and I would sit on the grass.
And for
I
those of
watched.
you who don't know, the Sacré-Cœur here in Paris is actually on top of the highest hill in Paris, so you have
Yeah,
a beautiful skyline
beautiful
of the
view.
entire city. So I can
Exactly.
definitely see where you can get inspiration from that. And also,
Yeah.
it's in Montmartre, where some of the most amazing artists, musicians, painters have lived and created and made
There's
legacies for
something there.
themselves. So
Yeah,
you
there's
do
something
feel
there.
kind of a connection.
Exactly. And that was my go-to place for a good 5 6 years.
Hmm.
Didn't matter what season. I would just go and hang out. It was
Yeah,
like something, just magic could happen there.
yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I would do. And if it didn't happen, it just didn't happen, because I look back on some of those songs that I wrote that were forced. I was like, did I write that? That sounds awful. I should just stayed in the bed. So yeah, that's how I do it. That's my method.
Okay. Can you tell us about maybe one of the biggest mistakes or embarrassments you've had in your career?
Oh, that is. Oh, wow. The biggest mistakes or embarrassments. Well, yeah, that's pretty. Well, embarrassment. That one's easy. Mistakes, I have to think about, but embarrassment is easy because I was in the private. That sounds bad. Like private what? The private party circuit or whatever, trying to make money.
Okay.
Um, and that entailed a lot of weddings, a lot of bar mitzvahs, bat
Hmm.
mitzvahs, but it was an easy way to make money. And you can get, I mean, some people do just that, which is fine. That's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
I knew what I was going in there for. But there are people that do that for 20 years. That's their thing.
Hmm.
It's a very special and bizarre circuit, in my opinion, at least here in Paris, because it's all based on looks and not so much how you sing. Like, people would call and be like, "Are you black? I need a black singer."
Oh my, oh
Yes, but
my.
have you heard me sing? No, it doesn't matter. Black singer. Okay, so I was okay, see. And I had to get used to that. And I went and replaced one of my girlfriends, and this was the second or third time that I'd replaced her. The same one that sings with me in Switzerland. And we laughed about this the other day. And in this group, you had to dress particularly, like, in a very suggestive and sexy manner.
Hmm.
And I was a little bit, I guess, of a prude compared to them. Like, I had my little black dress, which was for me fine. It was good for a cocktail and all this other stuff. And apparently, it was not good enough for them. So they gave me the other girl's dress. Who, I mean, if you see her, I'm 5'2", like 105, 110 pounds. This girl was like 5'10", maybe like
And
one.
they
I
gave
don't.
you
I'm
her
bad. I'm
dress.
bad. But she had a whole bunch of boobs. Like, I don't have that much.
Yeah.
I got a lot in the back. She had a lot in the front. So when I saw the dress she was trying to give me, I was like, oh, that's not gonna fly. I can't wear it, right? And this is a bar mitzvah, you know.
That's weird. Yeah.
So I get on and they insisted, like, the entire team insisted, except one guy who was amazing, but and tried to defend me, but he didn't have much of a say. So I get on stage and we're singing some song, I don't remember, where you had to jump up and
Oh
pump it
no.
up,
I can
and
see where this is going.
the whole top fell down, and I didn't have a bra, and the whole thing
You're now a
exploded.
man, indeed, son.
Okay, I was gonna say, and this little man, all of his friends were like, and I ran off the stage, and I was so
Oh my
embarrassed, because
god.
I tried to tell them that the dress was way too big, and I
But they
just,
couldn't see it visually, like.
they this was like 5 minutes before we went on stage. They kind of tried to pin it together with,
Oh
it was just really badly put together. It was horrible. So that was my biggest embarrassment. My biggest mistake. That's just a general thing. It's just not saying no back in the day and wasting so much time trying to please people and have them think that I was nice and generous. So that wasted. I mean, that took away a lot of my time and energy. So I worked on a lot of projects years ago that I probably shouldn't have, because not just because it didn't turn out to be anything or to make me any money, but I didn't gain any, I didn't have any sort of pleasure working on the project. I just did it not to hurt the person's feelings, because it was a nice person. And so that's my biggest mistake in general, because I did it a couple times. I didn't learn the first time, you know.
One of my theories is that life will keep giving you the same lesson until you learn it.
Exactly.
If you wonder why this keeps happening to you, because you didn't fucking learn your goddamn lesson.
Okay, exactly. But you better believe I say no now. A couple of those people have come back to me. It's been like 10 years. And they've asked me for similar projects. And I'd be like, listen, I can't do it. Or, this is so bad. And it's not because I didn't want to, but I felt like I responded in my mind, but I never did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it was just so crazy. You said no in your head, and you're like,
I said no in my head. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny. So can you tell us about something that you've created that you feel the most connected to?
Oh, definitely. That would be,
and not necessarily the most successful, but something that
yeah. That's an easy one. It's my Because of Lily project. It's a group, but it's just an entire project and frame of mind, because I created it with one of the first artists I worked with when I got to Paris, named Near Raymond, an exceptional singer and musician and in person. And he and I were both in a place where we're just sick of writing crap songs and doing these crap gigs, and we just wanted to make simple songs with the guitar and our voices. And so he lives in Nice, and he would come to Paris, and every time he came, we just hash out some songs, and those songs turned into a first EP, which allowed us to do a lot of festivals. We weren't even looking to put it out commercially. And then now we're working on our album of like 13 songs, and we put out some videos. So that's probably what I'm the proudest of, creatively speaking. Just because it wasn't even supposed to be, and we both happened to be just fed up with the music business, and we didn't care. We're both categorized as soul singers, or R&B singers. And here we go, listening to everything from folk, country, to I don't know, bluegrass, to old pop, not like the stuff that's out now, and just making these simple melodies. Some of them sound very Beatles-like, and a lot of people didn't expect that coming from us, and we didn't care. So.
Well, that's again going back to the side projects. You have to do something that you're interested in, that you love, just for the sake of creation. But you guys do have a music video that's on YouTube, and I will link it in the comments below so people can check it out. You guys have a great sound. So I kind of want to, start wrapping up with some of these questions. So first, I want to know if you have anything you can suggest to our listeners that has helped you out, and maybe helps you out. And that could be a book, or an uplifting song, a poem, an application, just anything that you kind of use maybe in your everyday life or throughout your career.
Yeah. You know what? As simple as it may sound, the Huffington Post features a lot of articles for indie artists. They have a lot of interviews that are amazing and inspiring. One recently, I can't think of the independent artist's name. She's Australian, but she basically was bouncing off of what Taylor Swift had done when it came to Apple trying to pull a fast one over on us artists. Yeah. Basically not getting paid for 3 months, the 3-month trial period for the new Apple, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yet, once again, we are basically, I don't know, just being not even considered as I don't know, it wasn't being considered as a profession, the way it should be. And so this artist just talked about, and broke it down like, listen, we need to be paid as well. I mean, you go to the store and you pay for this, you pay for your groceries, you pay for this. Let me tell you where that money goes, for those that you don't know. I mean, for those of you that don't know, or for those of you that want to just get everything for free when it comes to music, or just pay an entire band 50 euros, sing all night at your wedding. We have to pay for this. We have to put up all these initial costs, and then we have to recoup that. And then maybe if we're fortunate enough, we can make a little bit of a living off of it. So I like the Huffington Post because it just features a lot of things that kind of hit home. And yes, they have stuff about, the wonderful world of Beyonce and stuff like that. But that's not me, and that's not the majority of us.
Yeah.
So they have things that speak to me. So I mean, more than any self-help book, more than any, how to make it in the music business book, because I got a whole bunch of those sitting there. And as we have seen, those things change year after year. So the stuff that I have from 1999, from even 2012, is no longer relevant. Yeah. So definitely the Huffington Post. There's several different categories to check out. Also, just for business sense, I check it every day. Just so you know what's going on business-wise, and you can get some advice when it comes to saving, when it comes to non-traditional ways of earning money, because we have to make sure that we have stuff coming in, and we have to basically be save for ourselves, because we don't know what Social Security is going to look like in the years to come. It'll be non-existent. Retirement. So it's great for that as well. And just overall self-help, inspiring articles. So Huffington Post, I'm putting a plug for Huffington.
Well, we'll link that in the show notes, your helpful tip. And I do think that's a great tip because, like I said today, now being an artist isn't really about the talent. You have to have more than that to make it. You have to have a business sense if you want to live off of this, because you mentioned before that, you get one big gig and it's a lot of money. It looks like that. But if it's going to last you 6 months, it's not a lot of money.
It is not a lot of money. And if you try to keep that, and you do it the right way, and everything is clean for the tax man, he's going to come and get his part too. So you got to constantly keep up with things and save, and just always have a business sense in mind, no matter what happens. So
absolutely. So before I get to the final questions that I like to ask my guests, I just want to give you a chance to let our listeners know where they can find out more about you, and also tell us about any current projects that you're working on.
Okay. Well, you can go to my website, which is Crystal Petit, PETIT.com, and you'll find all of my projects grouped together, and thoughts of the day and things I like and can't stand. And my group is becauseoflily.com, Lily, Lily. And I'm working on a project with a fellow American named Asha, who was a former lead dancer for Alvin Ailey. And she and I put together it's in workshop form, but it can also be in concert form. It's basically live music meets dance. And we have several different vignettes going through the ages. And so we put together a video, and I did one of Josephine Baker's songs, and she danced to it. And so we're developing that. It's called Dawn's Early Light, just like one of our songs. So I'm really proud of it. Very patriotic,
I'd also like to let people know we didn't get into this, but you also started a group here in Paris about 2 years ago now, I think, or
2010.
Oh, has it been that long?
Yes, girl. I realized that the other day. I was like,
and it's called American Artists in Paris.
Yes.
AIP is what we call it for short. And I remember when she told the group that she got the domain name, and we all laughed because Crystal didn't realize that the acronym for the group, AAI, the website is called AA in Paris, so she didn't realize that could also mean Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh, I've been here too long.
It means Artists in Paris.
Well, sometimes.
There are some drinkers too, so it works on two levels.
Yeah.
And I think it's .org or it's .com.
It's .com. Yeah.
So AAinparis.com. If you have a drinking problem, you can still come check us out.
You can still come check us out. I mean, yeah. That I'm really, really proud of, and I need to, get back on board with that. But
the artist that you just mentioned that you're doing this collaboration project, and she's also in the group.
She's also in the group, yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a collective of all sorts of artists. So you've got actors, singers, photographers, writers, dancers, just everything under the sun, people that I admire, people that I've seen their work, love what they do. I mean, it's not an all-inclusive thing because I have had a couple people ask if how can they be down? How can I come? Can I come to the meeting? And I'm very adamant about making sure I've seen what the person can do or is doing, and just how motivated they are. So it's a very inspiring group of people here in Paris, Americans.
And I think it, in a way, not to be snobby or anything, but it makes it a little bit more prestigious to be invited in, because all of the people in the group who I'm going to be reaching out to a number of and hope to get on the show, they have had long, amazing careers. I mean, they've kind of like maybe 12 years and up, and even 12 is might be on the young side. So these people have experience in their industries, in life, and they can, and I think they're really at that stage too where they can say no to something, and it's a different level when you kind of have that foundation already built. You can accomplish more. So I remember, my photography career really started when I moved here in Paris. And I remember Crystal invited me to be part of the group. And I didn't know I'm like, me? Like, do you see these people in the group? Like, you must have the wrong number. I really had no idea why Crystal had invited me to be in this group. But I was definitely super honored that you saw something in my work and recognized my mediocre accomplishments compared to everyone in the group at the time. So I'm honored to be a part of it, and I'm definitely honored to have been invited. And I've learned a lot just listening to you guys talk about, your long careers and history in your respective industries. So it's a great group. So I'll link it in the show notes below so people can, find out more about that too. So bringing on to the last two questions. So the first one is, what do you expect from life?
Oh, well, to be happy. As simple as that may come across, just to be happy. Had you asked this question to me when I was 18, it would have been a different answer, because I was, or even 22. I wanted to be probably what Beyonce is now. That would have been what I expected or wanted out of life. And I've just gone through so many things and seen so many things in the past 15 years since I've been here, that they just make me understand what really counts in life, and how much of a gift it is to just be happy. And happiness can be found with, me picking my first ripe tomatoes over there on my balcony in Paris, because I have a balcony in Paris with rare, you know what I mean?
And who would have thought you could ever say that,
exactly.
When you first started,
I barely had a window in Paris.
And my first apartment was pretty shitty too.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's Paris. It's like when I lived in New York, we had a couple rats in there, it's normal.
But like your neighbors, like, hey,
what's up? And they weren't even trying to leave. So every single day, I try to find at least 3 things, as small as they may seem, just, and just tell myself mentally, I'm happy about this, and this. This happened, this happened, this happened. Got my kids off to daycare without one of them embarrassing me in the street.
Success.
Exactly. So that's all I want,
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't have to have, it'd be nice to have her bank account, but I don't have to have Jennifer Lopez's bank account to be happy.
Right.
I just want to be happy, simple and plain.
That's a great point too. I think that's the reality of being an artist. I think especially because when you're young, you have just bright stars, and you see all these famous people, and you just want to have that. But
Exactly.
being an artist doesn't have to be that. You can still be happy and not be at that level, and you can still be successful without being on that level,
Right.
And you can still be happy. And I think that's a great point. So thank you for sharing that. So the last question: what do you think life expects from you?
I think life expects me to be an honest person. Just because I have had so many occasions where, I don't know, people that I've just met, people that I've known forever, people that I lost contact with 5, 10 years ago have come to me and asked me what I thought about something. And they've told me, down the line that they've appreciated my honesty, no matter how frank it was, just because a lot of people tell people what they think they want to hear. So I think life, as corny as it may sound, I think life wants me to be that person that just tells it like it is, gives my honest opinion about stuff, and just goes with things. That's it.
I love that because when I talk about honest people giving their opinions, I don't shut up.
That is true.
But on a personal level, I do appreciate your input as well, because especially as an artist,
Yeah.
hearing that you're great and fantastic all the time is not going to make you better.
No.
It's not. You have to hear what you need to improve on so you can improve on it. If
Yeah.
not, you're just going to get better at producing crap.
Exactly.
And who is that going to help? No.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's
So
okay.
you have to get that honest feedback, because
Yeah.
you will never grow into what you can become without it.
Right. And exactly. You don't want somebody just stroking your ego. You want somebody to tell you the truth. If not, you'll find yourself, you're no longer that 22-year-old making crap music. You're that 55-year-old making
crap music.
crap music. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to tell you the real deal. And so, music or otherwise, it could be, just the other day I told somebody, because they asked. No, but they asked me a question about their relationship, and I never go to that territory.
Yeah.
Never. I do not. I've seen what it can do, but they insisted, and I was like, look, this is what I think. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely that. When people ask me questions, I always preface it. I'm like, really think if you want me to answer this question, because I will answer it.
Exactly.
So I always give people a little warning, like you can back out. I don't have to answer this question, but
Right.
I will if you want me to.
Exactly. So.
Well, thank you for being on as a guest. I think your story and your journey is incredible and inspiring. And I think a lot of not only artists but mothers will relate to your story, and I hope that you've given some of them, a perspective that they can continue on and have the best of both worlds.
Well, I hope so too. I hope I can help somebody, give a little insight. Thank you for having me.
No, and I definitely hope I can have you on another episode and pick your brain a little bit more, because you're just a wealth of knowledge and tips, and I think our audience can definitely benefit from that.
Thank you. I'd love to come back.
Great. So this has been another episode of the Artist 2.0 podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and comment. You can find out more about us on our website, www.artist20.com. And as always, be excellent.
Bye.